What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Trade for Yourself podcast, where my mission here is very simple. I just want to help you learn how to trade for yourself. Please make sure you like, subscribe, make sure you listen to this episode from start to finish. I promise you, you will not regret it, okay? Please note that anything we discuss in this episode is not financial advice, so please do your own research before investing into any stock. Before we get into this, Webull is going to give you 12 free stocks valued at up to $3,000, okay? All you have to do is deposit money into the account, any amount into the account, and Webull will be able to give you up to 12 free stocks valued at up to $3,000. Please click the link in this description of the video and you will be able to get you some free money. If you are trying to get you some money to help jumpstart your portfolio, please click my referral link in the description. Go get you that free money from Webull. In this episode, we're going to be talking all about AMD stock, and we're going to be breaking down AMD stock. And I really truly believe AMD stock is going to be one of the best performing technology stocks for the remainder of 2023. We're going to talk about some trades that I'm in right now, some fundamental analysis that I believe that we should be paying attention to with this stock, and why I think it's going to be one of the best performers for the remainder of this year. All right, let's get into it. Hey, everybody. So I want to start off my argument here today by looking at the charts. And so if you're a fan of the Trade for Yourself podcast and you've been listening to what I talk about, you understand that the chart is normally the last thing I talk about. But this is very, very important because I believe this chart tells us a story. And I believe that when we look at charts and we look at the market, technicals and prices will tell us a story about a particular stock. And so this is a daily chart, and this chart goes back to about May of last year. And so we look at this chart, we see AMD made a low of $54.57. Since it made that low, this pretty much showed us, hey, this is as low as AMD is going to go, pre-pandemic levels, the whole 9 yards. Right. But if we look at technicals, we look at structure, this was the low. We had a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. And right here, this particular gap, okay, there's a gap right here that I really want us to highlight. Okay, there's a gap right here, and I'm not going to let this gap go by without drawing a triangle here, drawing a shape here to let you know exactly what I am talking about, okay? There is a gap. There was a gap right here, and this gap is very, very important. Why did AMD gap up right here? AMD gapped up right here because on May 24th, NVIDIA announced their earnings. They announced their guidance, and NVIDIA went up 30% overnight. A rising tide will lift all boats. And so many other semiconductor companies gapped up as well. So AMD gapped up because of NVIDIA, because investors were saying, hey, AMD is going to go up because NVIDIA was going to go up because they play in the same lanes. And so if you look at it and you see AMD gapped up, went on a crazy run, came back down, actually went higher, and the stock stopped out at $132.83. But then the stock began to come back down, and it began to fill this gap, and it closed this gap. But if you look at it technically, it came back down. It still respected some key technical levels, and it began to push back higher. What's the main story around this particular chart? The story that I believe that this chart is telling me is that AMD is going to continue to make higher highs and higher lows. And I believe that what we are seeing here is that AMD has another date with $132.83. And I believe that it's going to exceed that. Okay, now remember, this is a daily chart. Let's look at this thing on a weekly chart. Now, if we examine AMD on a weekly chart, we see the same things. We see the same higher highs, higher lows. What we see right here is that AMD stopped out at resistance. AMD stopped out at resistance right here of $132.83. What I'm thinking is that AMD is going to retest this, is going to break it, and is going to keep moving to higher highs. It's going to have a date of it's going to have a date with 141, another level of resistance. And I believe that this stock is going to continue to make higher highs because I believe there are certain metrics that the stock is going to continue to deliver on, and investors are going to love what they see. So let's go into the next portion of this episode to show you some trades that I'm in, some particular trades that I'm actually in right now. Okay, everybody, so this is the trade for yourself portfolio, and this is going to continue to be a staple on the Trade for Yourself podcast, because at the end of the day, my mission here is very, very simple. I want to help you learn how to trade for yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to examine what's been going on. And so if you checked out my last episode, you notice that there are some differences in this portfolio because I had PayPal in this portfolio and I had Square in this portfolio. Now, I want to give you some updates. Now, on June 26th, I sold my PayPal and my Square positions for profit, mind you. PayPal was up 36% and Square was up 35%. And I bought AMD on June 26th and June 27th. I bought this call, the top call, on June 26th, and I bought the bottom call on June 27th. Now, I still believe that PayPal and Square are solid positions. I believe that those are going to be profitable positions, but AMD brought an opportunity that I could not let go. I could not let go of this opportunity. And this is my high conviction play. Like when we look at trades, I have to go with my high conviction move. I can't go with one that I'm lukewarm with. So I decided to take those profits and move them all into AMD. Now, let's break this down. Let's break down the trades that I'm actually in right here. So I'm in the AMD $140 call for October 2023. And I'm in the AMD call $140 strike for January 2025. Now I'm up about 7% on the October expiration, and I'm up about 22% in the January 2025 expiration. Now, full disclosure, this particular entry wasn't that good for the top call because AMD dropped off. But I got a great entry, y'all. I got a great entry for this call right here. Now let me just break this down to you why I got into these particular trades. I believe that AMD is going to go back to 140 by this particular date because, like I said, I looked at it technically. I think that AMD is going to have another date with $132, and I believe it's going to break it. And on the next slide, I'm going to show you the options chain and some options activity that makes me think that it's very, very possible for this particular stock to get to this particular level. Okay, why did I buy this January 2025 call? Because I want to have time. I want to have time on my positions, and I believe that this is my king. This is my king. If y'all are a fan of chess, remember, if you stop the king from making a move, then that's checkmate. You pretty much won the game. I think that this call right here is going to print, guys. I think this call right here is going to do numbers. And like I said, I bought it for January 2025 because I want to make sure that I have enough time, and I want to give this call the opportunity to print. Now this is going to be the measuring stick for this particular situation. I believe AMD is going to outperform, and I believe it's going to get to all-time highs by the time this particular date comes. Before the date comes, I believe it's going to get to all-time highs before the date comes. But if this $140 call hits, this call right here is going to print. So again, this is the Trade for Yourself portfolio. So this is the one for y'all. This is the one I'm giving y'all inside information to what I've got going on, into what I'm thinking, right? And so I want you to pay attention to this. Let's go to the next slide. Let me explain why I selected this $140 call. Okay, everybody, so this is barchart.com, and barchart.com does a very, very good job of showing the options chains for particular stocks. And so you may ask yourself, why did you select the $140 strike? Now, this is an options chain for October 2023. And if you look at this particular strike, right, let me go ahead and highlight it. We look at the open interest. The open interest is 32,571 contracts. So this is telling me that people are holding 32,571 contracts of this particular strike price. And the volume was 2,044. So people were trading 2,044 of this particular strike. Now, this is what you would call elevated options activity. If you look at every other open interest and volume around it, it's nowhere near this $32,000 level. Now, me personally, this is my particular thesis and what I think is going to happen. Again, if we look at the stock technically, we look at where AMD stopped out. It stopped out at $132.83. I believe that AMD is going to have another date with that before that time, and is going to continue to make these higher highs and higher lows. So I think it's going to meet 132, break 132, and I believe it's going to get to 140. That's why I selected this particular contract, and I believe it's going to happen within the next month and a half to 2 months. That's another reason why I selected the $140 strike for January 2025, because I view that as my king on the board. That is my anchor right now. That is currently my anchor right now in this trade for yourself portfolio. And if that position hits, that's going to pay me enough to be able to start other positions in this particular portfolio. So again, when you look at these options chains, I like to surf the chain and see what's going on for particular expiration dates. Now, is this a guarantee? Is this a guarantee that AMD is going to hit $140? No, it's not. But if I look at it technically, and I look at what I see going on out there in the landscape, I think it's a very, very good probability. And there's one more thing that I'm looking at that makes me feel very, very good about what I believe AMD can do in the second half of this year. Okay, everybody. So the last thing that I'm looking at that makes me feel good about AMD is their earnings. Now, this is a chart that I'm going to break down of EPS, which stands for earnings per share. Stocks of this caliber and of any caliber move based off of earnings per share. How much profit is being generated and being added to shareholders. Now, in full disclosure, AMD did not have that good of earnings in the previous quarter, and their guidance for this particular quarter coming up was not that very good. Let me explain this to you. So if you look right here at Q2, AMD is projecting an estimate of 57 cents, right? That's the mean estimate for what analysts are anticipating. If you look at the year prior, AMD had $1.05 in terms of an estimate. So if we look at year over year numbers, which is very, very important, we always want to look at stocks from a year over year perspective. AMD is not looking very, very good for this Q2. But if I listen to what Lisa Su, the CEO, said on the previous call, she said that Q2 may not be that good, but Q3 and Q4 will be able to accelerate. I think that AMD has a very, very good opportunity to be able to outperform on this Q2 earnings, because NVIDIA came out and said that they were going to outperform in this particular quarter. AMD did not adjust their earnings. They did not adjust their earnings at all. So I believe that's going to allow AMD to easily beat these numbers and then provide elevated guidance for the subsequent quarters. So look at this now. Look at what they have for Q3. They have 74 cents expected for Q3, which is above the 67 cents that they had the last Q3. The Q4, they're expecting 93 cents, which is above the 69 cents, substantially what they had in that previous respective quarter, right? If you look at Q1 of next year, they're looking at 90 cents, which is above the 60 cents of what they had the previous quarter then. And if you look at Q2 of next year, that's more than double what they're expecting for the quarter coming up. So all of that to say, all these particular numbers, I believe at the end of the day, the profit is going to be increasing for this company over this particular year and next year. And what I think is, I believe that investors are going to reward this company this year. They're going to reward this company this year for what they're doing, because we're in a bull market, because the NASDAQ has been doing so well, because now this is the opportunity for AI stocks to be able to accelerate and be able to appreciate because of it. This is my thesis. This is why I'm thinking this way, and this is why I'm positioned in certain trades to be able to profit off of this particular information and what I'm thinking. At the end of the day, I believe that AMD stock is going to be one of the best performing stocks for the remainder of 2023. If you look at everything that it has going on from a technical standpoint, if you look at the fundamentals, and if you look at the opportunity that AMD has to outperform its particular guidance, I think that bolds it as being a very, very good candidate to be one of the best performing technology and semiconductor companies for the remainder of 2023. I'm putting my money behind it. You've seen my trades. I'm telling you, I'm thinking that AMD is going to be one of those ones that you need to consider trading and you need to consider investing in. As always, I appreciate you all for tapping into another episode of the Trade for Yourself podcast. Please like, please subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you can be in the know every single time I drop an episode. Please reach out to me in the comments. Let me know if you believe in AMD. Do you think that AMD can do what I think it can do? And are you as bullish on the stock as I am? As always, remember, don't pay for it. Trade for it. I'm going to tap in with y'all in the next episode.